all the values. And let's say the average value in this one is 1.5 and this one is 1.8 and the next one is 2.0. It will take all of those dark frames, take the average, and then go back and bias each one of them brighter and darker so they're all the same average brightness. I don't do that, but that's what that's for. In a dark frame, hot pixels are easy to detect. The lens cap is on. They're white. Simple. This will subtract them. Alignment methods. This has to do with the math. What math algorithm is used to align the actual lights once each individual light frame has been corrected with the bias and the flats and all that. If you have, it's based on how many light frames you have. Bilinear will always work. Bi-squared, you have to have at least 25 stars available. Bi-cubit, you need 25 to 39 stars available. No alignment at all, it does not align anything. It just stacks what you have. I can't think of why that would be handy, but if you had 100 images on a fixed tripod, this will stack just about anything. As long as it's got something, it'll stack anything. With no alignment, you can stack 3 frames completely different and it'll stack.
There was an internet image of several hundred people, faces who were scaled the same, and it just did that kind of alignment.
Oh, did it? That would be interesting. Now, once it takes every image, rotates it, offsets it, it has subtracted the darks, the flats, you know, it's evened out the image intensity across, it's taken the offset, it's done everything and it's ready to stack, you can tell it to save a calibrated file. That's a light frame that has been corrected as much as it knows how to correct it. You can check this box and tell it to save a copy of that file. It'll actually save, if you're stacking 100 light frames, it will stack 100 corrected light frames. Now this is handy because let's say that you know your corrections are correct, you just don't know what method you're going to use to stack them. You might want to try kappa one time, average one time, median one time. Well, don't waste hours sitting there redoing your darks and your flats and all that. Let it save a corrected file, then get rid of all the files and only load the corrected files and play with those. They've already been corrected, you don't need to correct them again. That's what this is for. The registered is, the calibrated is when the picture as it is, it's not shifted. The registered and calibrated, all the stars are identified and there's a text file that runs with it that's saved to go with the actual image. Also, and this is cool if you have a Canon camera, Canon will not save in FITS format, and you can't convert them to FITS format, which is a standard astronomy file format is FITS. Now you have a Nikon, right?
Yeah.
Yours might, Canon won't. But I can click that FITS and have it save calibrated files. It'll save them as FITS files, and I can upload those FITS files to astrometry.net. And the astrometry.net can actually work with that data. Cosmetics, after it's totally done with everything, you can have it go back and search and look for more hot pixels, more not hot pixels, called cold pixels. You can tell it to replace pixels with the median. If you want to change the median, there's some sensitivity levels you can change here. The output, I want to save the description file. And that's really all there is to it. I say OK, and I just say OK. I crunch it. It's going to go through adding the 3 dark frames together. That's why I only added a few frames. It's computing a master dark, saving the master dark. Now it's registering the 3 light frames. Registering means it's looking for the stars, counting the stars, finding the positions of the stars, and it's going to subtract those dark frames and save that calibrated registered image. Now it's stacking. Again, I'm only using 3 frames, and you're probably not going to see a whole lot because it's not reading the frames correctly on this laptop. Oh, and by the way, if you have a multi-processor core computer, it will use as many threads as you will let it use. I have a quad core, but it won't hyper-thread, so mine will run all the time with 4 threads. Now it's aligning the red, green, blue, saving the final image. All right. Now you saw how little detail was in that other image. See a whole lot more now. You can put your cursor up on here and zoom in. That's, I think, yep, that's trifid. Now notice these are blurry. Okay? That's because I stacked images that really weren't very good to stack. But we're going to focus right here, and I'm going to take my cursor and draw that. Now look down here. See this histogram? These 3 slides control how it changes the math here, and you can watch the changes here live. I'm going to change so that it's working on a square root of log. It is square log. All right. This is the red. What you want to do is try to get the peak, and I think Bill, I think you and Silva were taking notes about how to do this, or asking me one time something. Anyway, somebody was. Try to get the peak of of each color at about around 1/3 up the histogram. And you try to align the colors on top of themselves. Of course, if something is more red or more green, then you know it's going to need to have a higher level of red or green. This is the top end. Anything above that gets turned to white. This is the highlight end. The other side is the shadow end, and the middle is the mid-tone. So if you look, everything's kind of in the middle. Now notice this curve. This is the bias curve, the luminance curve. There are 3 angles right here. This angle is the angle it leaves the bottom point, and the percent weight of that angle. So you can see that weight that it pushes. I usually set the dark to 0, just like that. This mid-tone, see the mid-tone shift angles? I usually keep that around 10. This is where the mid-tone comes into effect. I put that so that down here, and this is just my starting point. You got to play with it. This is where I spend the bulk of my time after I crunch the data. This is where I'm at. Where that curve passes about 45 degrees, lines up with about the peak of those. That's where I try to shoot my data, about there. The highlights control exactly what it sounds like. I try to get this where it's coming off at an angle. It comes off and then it turns down, and this 45 degrees is roughly even with the top end of the curve. That's what I shoot for. Then I click apply. Okay. Saturation, you can turn the color saturation up, and all that does is multiplies each color by a certain amount. See the red starting to come out? There it is. Let's zoom in a little bit. So then you go back. I want to get a little bit more. I don't want quite that much. There we go. I can turn that dark, the bottom end of the curve. Watch the dark areas now. If you look, the skies are never actually totally black, are they? You see this granularity here? You can see that because I don't have these clipping off the darks. I move that the tiniest bit. See how that curve shifts? This guy's French, by the way, just so you know. Down is up and up is down. I'm not lying. I have to push that. To make that go down, I have to push the arrow up. Oh, there we go. Sometimes I'll even move everything all the way to the max. You can link them together. tinker around with this for hours. Change these to, let's go to cube root. That might look better. And then down this way. And then this way. And then this way. See, I have less noise now. There's no easy way to do this other than sit and play with it. I can tell you what I start with is the square root of the log function, which don't ask me how he does the math. I don't know. I know it has to do with the way the scale is, so that this is a logarithmic scale. The luminance, I told you about where I start with. I start usually with this at 0, this all the way up, put this somewhere around 10. I try to put this somewhere where that, right there at 45, passes kind of sort of around the peak. On the bottom, I try to put that 45 somewhere around the top, the leading edge of the curve. And I click apply, and it works. Saturation, I usually turn the saturation up all the way because it lets me see the background noise here. Because once I see this noise and I adjust for it as best I can, I always turn this down for my camera down to 18. And again, Ron, I know you're going to ask me, this is trial and error. I click apply, and that's what I get. From here, once I see that, yeah, that's kind of what I want, I click the unhighlight, I apply again to process the whole image, and you'll see it work its way out. Then I can come over, save that to a file. Notice it saves as a 16